Welcome back to the 4. The Easter Bunny came to visit NanBop Farm dogs Gino and Enzo over the weekend. Gino and Enzo were greeted with farm-fresh eggs and pets aplenty, sneaking in kisses whenever they could and giving some pets of their own. The Easter Bunny even went on a little adventure around NanBop Farm property to explore all the work that's been done over the past year. Gino and Enzo showed off their chickens, goats, and their veggies. And the Easter Bunny was very impressed with all of their knowledge about agriculture and farming.
Nice.
Yeah, look at Gino and Enzo, such good boys. Such good boys.
Oh, Easter Bunny. Now, on this week's Growing, Eating, and Educating, NanBop Farm Director Andrea Bushre, who we just saw there with the Easter Bunny, shows us the process of seed starting with our very own Eric Brazeal. So let's head out to NanBop Farm and see what Andrea and Eric get their hands dirty.
All right, folks, for this episode of Growing, Eating, and Educating, NanBop Farm Director Andrea Bushre has invited me down to the farm to do some seeding.
Yeah.
Is that what this is called?
Yes.
Seeding, because this is the first step in the process that's going to lead you to all of this beauty behind us. So, Andrea, what's the first step?
Yeah, so first thing we're gonna do is take some soil out of this bag. This is our Seed Starting 101 with Morgan's Composting.
Okay.
Then we're gonna put it in this bench here that we made that's just kind of helpful to kind of save our backs when we're doing hundreds of trays at a time. And so this is something that we're not having to bend our backs all the time, and it kind of saves us a little bit. The next thing that we'll do is add water. So you can,
yeah, because this is very dry.
Right, so you can see how just like light and kind of dusty it is.
Oh, yeah.
So it still has all the same nutrition in it, but it's a lot more difficult for seeds to start on just dry soil. So we want to add some water in here with the hose. And we don't have like a specific recipe or amount that we use. We just kind of go until it feels right. And I like to call it like a chocolate cake consistency.
Okay.
And so you want it to be kind of dense, but you also want to make sure that like you're not putting too much water in there, because otherwise it's just not great.
Gotcha.
Not great to pack trays
and
everything.
I'm noticing a lot of just big clumps. Are we trying to break these up as we go?
Yep.
Okay.
So kind of like treating it right, kind of like making an apple crumble or something like that, where you're just kind of doing that as you mix and just kind of breaking up those clumps.
Gotcha.
But also the sign of clumping is also kind of good, because that's when you know you're just about there.
You're just about there. Gotcha.
Yep, and so we're pretty much there now, and so I like to just kind of squeeze it, and if you have just about like a drop or so coming through like your knuckles, you're at just about the right consistency.
All right, so you think we're ready?
Yep, so we'll just kind of level this out a little bit. We're gonna grab our tray, and actually, if you can hand me that one underneath. So we've got a tray here, and this is a 72 cell tray. And you can see that it's kind of flimsy, and so like once we add soil to it, it's just gonna kind of bend. So we add a tray at the bottom to just kind of give it some stability.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now with the 72s, what typical plants go in here?
Yeah, so this is usually like our flowers, our herbs, things that grow pretty quickly and we can pop in the ground pretty fast.
Gotcha.
And so you can see that they have smaller cell size, like diameter. These are our 50 cell trays, and you can see, right, kind of like a comparison of how much bigger the cell size are. And so basically it just means whatever's going in our 50 cell trays are probably staying in there longer. And so things like our tomatoes, our peppers and stuff go in 50
Give them a little bit more room to grow before they go on the ground. That makes sense.
Yep. So we'll put this in here, and then all we're gonna do is scoop the soil and plop it over top.
Just dump it right in there.
Yeah, and then you just kind of take your hand and kind of lightly pack it in there. You don't want it too tight, so that, right, it's hard for those new roots to kind of form in there. But you don't want it too little. It's a Goldilocks effect, right? So we want to make sure
it's right in the middle.
We have almost like a sponge kind of texture on the top. So we're making sure we're still kind of packing it in but we don't want it to feel like a rock, right, that has no give.
And is it important to make sure all the connections are also pretty clean?
Yep, so the top of the tray you want to make sure is pretty clean. All right, so now we're ready to start seeding it.
Okay.
And so the step with seeding it, first you want to make your indents in the cells.
Okay.
So first thing I want to do is look at our seeds. And so, right, understanding the size of your seed is going to tell you how big of a hole that you need to put in here. And so you want the hole to be just about twice the size of the seed. And so, yes, we're going for about the finger length of your pinky nail.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yep. And so you're just going to lightly push your fingers into the soil.
How deep?
So go for the length of your pinky fingernail.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha,
Yep.
okay.
And so I use the pads of my finger to give it more space for the seed to actually land in the hole. But it really doesn't matter that much. This is just like a little hand seeder that makes it a lot easier for you to be a little more accurate.
So you're just
Yep.
forward, and
Yep.
then you
And
want to
then-
make sure, of course, it gets in the little indentations.
Yep, so tip it to the side a little bit as you're doing it, and then you just lightly tap this with your pointer finger, and it gives you a little bit more control versus just kind of dumping it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Doop-a-doop-a-doo.
And these are pretty cost effective, but it helps you to stay a little more accurate.
Well, all right, I just feel like a farmer today, Andrea. Now, where can people go if they want more information, both on what's growing on the farm, because there's a lot, but also the events and everything happening here on NanBop?
Yeah, so NanBopFarm.com is where we have all the things that we're doing. We have a list of calendar updates of different events or things that we're doing on the farm. You can also see like how to sign up for our summer CSA share, and even have bi-weekly blogs from me. So that could be pretty cool to kind of stay up to date on the inside things that are happening on the farm.
And of course, you have a great Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
That's at NanBop Farm, correct?
Yep.
Just posting of just Gino and Enzo, our farm dogs, are worth the follow.
The famous dogs.
The famous puppers. And of course, we're going to make sure all the links you need, as always, they're going to be available on 9and10news.com.